What's up everyone, Humble Farmer Taiki here, and welcome to this week's edition of Farms of the Week. If you like the content, please like and subscribe, and check out the premium Discord and lock in the rate before prices go up on February 1st. So let's get right into it. I've been talking a lot about airdrop farming on my channel, on Twitter, and I do think that it is a net positive to the space because, I think the majority of my viewers, we've survived the bear market together. We've been in the space for a couple of years, and we're finally seeing, the grass is greener on the other side, and our coins seem to be finally going up, right? But if you want to make, I guess, like significant gains in the crypto markets in the coming bull cycle, you have to empathize with new money, right? You have to empathize with new blood, because where all that new attention goes is where, I guess, like the price appreciation is going to go. And the longer you're in crypto, I think it's more likely that you kind of just hold Ether and stake it, and you kind of like don't touch some of these altcoins because it's like VC coins or it's a scam, etc. But also, right, like if you think about it, what can you do on Ethereum mainnet that's going to make you a significant amount of money right now? Not much if you think about it, right? Maybe staking with Eigenlayer, right? Maybe that gives you some airdrops, sure. But if you think about using DeFi, using the chain, why would you go on mainnet when you can just pay lower fees on Cosmos and Celestia, right? That ecosystem, and also try out the Solana ecosystem. And we already have like significant success stories. For example, if you staked one Celestia before the 19th of December, you got over $700 of Dimension tokens, and you'll probably get more tokens. If you stake one Solana with Jito, you made 10K. Like I literally know a person that like turned $1,000 into 100K because they just staked Solana with Jito across 10 different wallets, and each wallet got like over $10,000. And this is where attention is going to go. And I just dropped this new dashboard, so I've been working on this for a couple of months, and it's a pretty basic DeFi dashboard. Let's see how well it loads here. It takes some time, but stablecoin supply, DeFi TVL, you can get that anywhere, but I think one thing that's kind of interesting is looking at social metrics. So I've been sometimes talking about, hey, like I've been gaining subscribers over the past couple of months, even though I've like continuously lost subscribers. And you can kind of track this. Okay, this is like kind of bad data here, but for example, let's just look at the 3-year trend of views amongst DeFi YouTubers. So it's going to be me, Dynamo DeFi, like Patrick, and others. And you kind of see that, the bull market was crazy, right? Look at this. And then we had like the second peak with November of 2021. And then it was down only, right? Oh man, it's so painful. And then recently we're seeing, more people come back and watch these videos. And it might if you've been in the markets for a long time, it might seem like prices are up a lot. But if you look at this, it's like, well, yeah, we're getting like an influx of viewers, but it's nothing compared to last cycle. And if you expected this cycle to be bigger than last cycle, then, technically you're somewhat early, right? Whoops, I didn't mean to do that. But so I'll provide this in the description below. Some aspects are not perfect, so feel free to give me feedback. This is quote unquote beta mode, right? I'm just like sharing this in case it's somewhat useful. I also have social metrics YouTube channels and mainstream YouTube channels, like all these big guys. So, in case you're interested, feel free to check that out. But let's talk about airdrop farming. So I'll talk first about, I guess, like Celestia, so Dimension, and also Alt Layer. If you staked with Eigenlayer, you also receive that airdrop. So I mentioned the redistribution is complete. The team continues to say that they're going to launch mainnet very, very soon. And I do think that this is going to be one of the most anticipated airdrops, at least in the Celestia ecosystem. Because if you think about the three, layers of a blockchain, there's like the modular thesis, and then there's a monolithic thesis. And the monolithic thesis is led by Solana, and it's monolithic integrated chains where everything is done on one chain. So consensus, data availability, execution, and settlement is all done on one chain. And the modular thesis says, it's nice to have everything on one chain, but it's also less decentralized that way. So let's separate out different layers. So we have Celestia for data availability, then we have Dimension for settlement, and then all these new application-specific rollups can launch on top of both Dimension and Celestia, and just focus on the execution layer. So the argument is that Dimension is gonna enables or Dimension is to roll apps, so app-specific blockchains, as Ethereum is to ERC20s and NFTs. So Ethereum made it really simple to launch new tokens and launch new NFTs, and then Dymension is trying to do something similar where using the Dymension hub, it'll be really easy to deploy new roll apps, right? As easy as like a single smart contract. And if you look at the Dymension portal, so most of these apps, they're like not real, right? Like Conan is like a Japanese manga character. People are just deploying roll apps to get like airdrops and whatnot. So I'm not really sure how many real apps we're gonna see here. But the speculation is that if you stake Celestia, you get these airdrops, right? But also if you stake Dymension, you might receive some airdrops of roll apps that launch. And Dymension actually has a built-in AMM, so you can kind of like swap tokens in and out, and the settlement layer actually handles like the transfer of assets, and there's a swap fee and the taker fee, and all this goes back into buying back the Dymension token. So the narrative is stake TIA for airdrops, stake Dymension for more airdrops, and I think this is staking for airdrops is definitely like the strongest narrative right now, especially because staking is a way to lock up supply, so the token is less liquid, so it can pump more, right? It can dump more, obviously, but obviously in a bull market, it tends to, gravity doesn't really work the way it should, and it goes higher. So I staked a bunch of Celestia. I got a bunch of Dymension. I'm probably gonna stake all my Dymension. Okay, sorry, not all my Dymension. So I'm not really sure what the minimum stake for Dymension is for future airdrops. No one actually knows. But I'll probably stake, 10 Dym on one wallet, 20 Dym on another wallet, 30 Dym on a different wallet, 40 Dym on like all these wallets. So I kind of have like, different tiers. And whatever I don't stake, I'll keep liquid in case I want to sell. And from an airdrop farming perspective, staking TIA is very illiquid, right? Because if you stake TIA, you have to wait 21 days to unbond if you want to unstake and sell. So if you receive all these airdrops and you don't sell anything, then you're not really realizing any profits. So, from a humble farmer's perspective, you have to sell these airdrops at some point. Otherwise, you can be left holding the bag because, I've mentioned this before, but I think TIA is going to be an amazing bull market token, but a really bad bear market token as soon as people start to unwind their operations. So, if you got the Dymension airdrop, make sure to check. I got a roughly 10 to 30% boost in my Dymension airdrop. So, I already have a pretty, I'm pretty excited for this launch. By the way, like the Dymension staking for airdrop, I literally made that up, right? I'm just speculating because there's so many roll apps on testnet. And I'm assuming that some of them, will decide to airdrop, but I don't have any inside information. I'm literally just, pulling it out of my own ass. So just, let that be known. Dymension right now is trading at roughly $4 on AVO. The AVO markets have been pretty accurate. I'm pretty surprised by that. I thought Dymension would launch at like $1 or $2, but I think, as more people get educated on Dymension, I think that, DYM is going to definitely be the beta to Celestia. So if Celestia does well, then I think Dymension does well. That's just my speculation. And we already have strong memes like Diamond Hands, right? Like DYM, OND, Diamond Hands. That's a strong meme, right? But for full transparency, I will be staking some of my DYM. I'll hold some like liquid. And if things get too crazy, of course you have to sell, right? Everyone has to sell. So just letting you guys know that. So the next thing I want to talk about is alt. So if you staked or if you restaked ETH with Eigenlayer or staked TIA, you should have been eligible for the alt airdrop. So 13% of the airdrop went to Eigenlayer restakers. So I got 5,000 alt tokens because I restaked with Eigenlayer, and then 10% is going to go to Celestia stakers. And the snapshot was taken on January 17th. We don't really know what the eligibility for Celestia is going to be just because they haven't really announced it. They said that, or last week they said that we're going to announce updates in the coming weeks. So, we're going to get it if you stake Celestia, but we don't know how much. Also, we don't really know, what the minimum stake was. If you look at, I guess, the Eigenlayer restaking points, it was tiered like this, where the majority of the people, the 22,000 wallets had, this many points. So they got, some, alt tokens. I was in the 25K to 50K range, so I got like 5,000, and I think anyone over 50,000 got like 6,666 or something. I mean, definitely a good stimulus check. And if you think about the role of airdrops, of course, one of them, one of the reasons people airdrop is, or teams airdrop is for marketing, right? You just give away tokens, and then like thousands of people have this token, and they're just gonna be bullish, right? Because like they gave me free money, it's so bullish, right? This token is bullish, and then you have a community. Second reason is to bootstrap a community and liquidity. So I mean, you get the community, and then if you give all these people tokens, then some of them are going to decide to LP, and then they don't, the team doesn't really have to worry about setting up liquidity because the community will do it. And the third, I guess, is to just get a token out, right? If you think about all these tokens, the typical unlock schedule is like a 1-year cliff, so the team doesn't get their tokens for a year, and then there's like a 3-year vesting period. And if teams think that we're going to enter a bull market, then they should be incentivized to drop tokens ASAP, just so that in January of next year, they're going to start to get their tokens. If the team waits too long, then their tokens might unlock in a bear market, and then they can't really, profit off of their dumping, right? So there's many reasons teams airdrop. I think people overcomplicate these things and think that, airdrops are such a capital inefficient way to drop tokens. It's so bad, right? But if you think about the people that say that, it's like people that don't airdrop farm and they're just salty. I honestly think that that's kind of how it works. And I've been doing a lot of work on alt layer, just because initially my plan was to just dump this in the first week or two, because it's like, okay, it's called alt, right? That's like a bullish ticker, but don't really understand this thing. Not really, but I've been spending more time on it. And I think that if you're bullish dimension, you kind of have to bullish alt as well. But I'm still early in my research process. One example of reasons to be optimistic is so there's this project called Babylon. They're also in the Cosmos ecosystem. Hopefully, I also staked Atom, so hopefully I get some airdrops. But they're basically the eigenlayer for Bitcoin. So with eigenlayer, it introduces this concept of restaking, where you can stake your ETH and then restake it, and then other projects can borrow security from Ethereum mainnet, and that way, new teams that launch new rollups don't have to set up a new validator set, get people to create these validators, and also introduce token inflation. So it's you're basically borrowing from Ethereum's security. And similarly, Babylon is introducing that on the Cosmos hub, or in the Cosmos ecosystem, for Bitcoin. So you can stake your Bitcoin, and other projects can borrow security from Bitcoin. And it's interesting because if AltLayer is working with EigenLayer and Babylon, then we can have all these new, rollups, restaked rollups, that decide to, let's say, borrow security from Ethereum, post their data to Celestia, and kind of have, I think I tweeted about this actually. So restaked rollups, whatever that means, right? They can use AltLayer to borrow security from Ethereum via EigenLayer. And which is similar to consumer chains on the Cosmos hub. For example, Neutron borrow security from Atom, and then these new restaked rollups can post data to Celestia, and I think that's kind of the idea. So everything Celestia is at the base layer of everything, and then teams have the option to figure out whether they want to use EigenDA, Celestia's DA, Dimension for settlement, AltLayer for all these restaked rollups, and my speculation is that look, I have no idea what the future holds, okay? But with the launch of Celestia, it just makes it so much easier for all these teams to just roll up, create new rollups and blockchains. That I would just expect there to be a plethora of new tokens, new projects that launch in the coming months. Some of them will go to zero, some of them will just pump to Valhalla, and hopefully if you staked Celestia or Dimension, or even alt, right? Maybe you can stake alt for airdrops. I definitely think that's the new meta. I'm not saying it's good, right? It's there's some Ponzi-nomic elements to it, but it is what it is, and if this is a new meta, then it makes sense to adjust. So that's kind of cool, and I do think that the alt-layer airdrop to Celestia stakers is going to be really, really worthwhile. And look, I don't have any incentive information, right? I'm literally just speculating off of publicly available information. If you think about it, 13% of the token or the airdrop, right, went to EigenLayer stakers, and EigenLayer has roughly $2 billion in TVL, and this is only going to go up, right? So $2 billion of I guess restakers and majority of the ETH maxis, right? There's this like staking eigenlayer because it's like the only thing exciting right now. But 10%, which is less than 13, right? Definitely. But 10% of the airdrop is also going to go to Celestia stakers. But if you think about it, there's $2 billion in eigenlayer, but there's not that much capital and not that many wallets that's staking Celestia. It might seem like there's a bunch of Celestia stakers because, like that's what everyone talks about. But if you just look at the data and like numbers and the amount of capital within these ecosystems, it's a lot less. Celestia just has like more mindshare because, it's good content, I guess. So you can check how many, I'll share this in the description below, but you can kind of see how much TIA is being staked. And let's wait for this section here. So I think right now the market cap of Celestia is roughly let's say $3 billion, right? $3 billion, roughly circulating market cap. And I know this isn't like the best way to do it, but roughly 50% of Celestia is staked, right? So you can say, okay, like maybe like $1.5 billion. Of course, like this is not like the actual like perfect numbers, like roughly $1.5 billion is staked. But if you think about it, like most of the stakers of Celestia are like just VCs, right? So I mean, this is like one of the reasons to be kind of cautious because VCs can stake their tokens and then they're receiving like 15% APY. But obviously, it really hasn't stopped the token from going up because there's so much demand to do this thing. So yes, 50% of TIA staked, but most of that is from VCs. So like, what's like the actual number of TIA staked by retail? Probably maybe like 30%. I mean, I don't have the numbers. I'm sure I can do the math, but I'm too busy right now, so I'm like just pulling these things out of my ass, right? So like, just bear with me here. And roughly 33% of wallets staked less than 10 TIA, 58% under or between 10 to 100, I suppose. And you can kind of see the distribution here. So there's a lot of eigenlayer restakers, but there's not that much TIA stakers. I'm just, like I said, I'm like just, this is like subjective analysis. But I think that basically the point is if you stake TIA before January 17th, I think we're going to get a pretty big airdrop. I guess like compared to eigenlayer restaking, right? If you staked like 10 TIA, I wouldn't like expect like $1,000, right? That's a little, too greedy. But if you staked like $200 worth of TIA and you got like $200 worth of alt tokens, then like, can you really complain? Like, not really. And one of the biggest discussions happening right now is, like, are these airdrops diluted? Are teams not doing like a great job distributing all these tokens? And obviously, right, no one actually knows. People ask me all the time, is it too late to stake TIA? Look, I literally have no idea. Okay, like, if I thought it was too late to unstake, if I thought that it was too late to stake TIA, then I would be unstaking my TIA right now, right? So the fact that I'm not unstaking my TIA implies that I still think that we're relatively early into like this meta. And also, if you think about it, like TIA staked 3 months ago, right? So is it like 3 months into mainnet launch? Like, is that too late? Maybe from a price appreciation perspective, but from like an airdrop perspective, I don't really think so. And you can also argue that, cause I staked TIA before all these airdrops happened, right? And you could have said before all these airdrops that, hey, like Taiki, how do you know that these things are happening? I'd rather stake my TIA after some of these airdrops actually, get distributed. Like, of course, if you're waiting for confirmation, you have to pay a higher price. That's just how it works. So do I think it's too late? I have no idea. But the fact that I'm not unstaking implies that I don't think it's too late. And by the way, like, I'm not really recommending anyone like risk that many capital into this, right? The whole point of Celestia staking and setting up your operation is that it's pretty asymmetric in terms of risk return, where you can just allocate 1 to 5% of your portfolio into just staking Celestia across all these wallets, however many wallets you want, and then you just stake and wait, right? You just stake and chill and hope that you get tokens. Who knows? I do think that people are underappreciating this narrative. Even today, I said that. Okay, so I kind of made this speculation because Celestia like retweeted like Starknet's posts, Nick White, John Adler, right? It's like a build whatever. I don't even know what this means. And it's like, oh, like maybe they'll airdrop the TIA stakers. Right? I'm literally making this up. I do a lot of making things up, by the way. Like I just bull post on Twitter, right? That's like the only utility for Twitter for me is like just bull post and shit post. So don't take my tweets that seriously. And they announced, Starknet announced that, we're what is this, right? Celestia Blockstream is coming to Starknet, enabling high throughput L3s with Celestia underneath. So I think what's happening here, I was talking to someone and I think the idea is that, the Ethereum scaling roadmap, not that great, right? I mean, they're working on it, but I think, it's kind of losing the narrative. And now they're talking about like having L3s, like, we have L1s and L2s, why not L3s? And I think what's happening here is that L3s are going to be app chains that can use Celestia for DA and then Starknet for, I think, settlement or execution. So, I mean, okay, like, obviously, I'm not that smart, right? I'm a mid-curve. So I mean, this literally came out like under an hour ago as I'm recording this. So I'm definitely like not that educated on the issue. But you're definitely seeing this trend of this modularity, right? Like like Solana is killing it with the monolithic front, and like some teams will prefer to build modular, and all these modular, I guess, projects. Sure, you can use EigenDA, right? So EigenLayer will introduce data availability, with restaking. Sure, you can borrow security from Ethereum because it's like ETH is more secure, right? However, if you don't care about some of these trade-offs, then why not use Celestia for DA? And we're just seeing all these projects move away from using Ethereum for DA, but using Celestia for DA. I think this is a huge trend, and it's definitely not looking great from like a narrative perspective from Ether. I think if it weren't for like the Ethereum ETF like speculation and the hype, I think Ether would be like suffering a lot more right now than it is right now. I mean, it's already suffering, but yeah, that's kind of my thoughts on it. So next, I will talk about Solana and other high throughput chains, but actually, yeah, let's just talk about that. So let's talk about Solana first. So, people have been complaining, hey, like Taiki, like you're such a boomer, right? Like you're stuck in the EVM, right? I have this phrase that I like to say, like, people are trapped in the EVM. And I think, people are just too much of an ETH maxi, and they're too lazy to use non-EVM chains. And as a result, all these non-EVM chain airdrops is going to be like all these non-EVM chains are going to be much less diluted than, I guess, airdrops in the EVM ecosystem. One example, so I'm actually working on this piece called Schrodinger's airdrop farming, which is kind of dumb, but I just like to have fun sometimes. This isn't public yet. I'm like literally just like, this is like my long form shit post. But, I kind of observed there's like two different populations in CT or crypto Twitter, right? There's like airdrop farmers that's like euphoric, like making a bunch of money. And then there's like non-farmers complaining about, oh, like, I can't believe, Taiki got all these wallets eligible for airdrops, like fuck that guy, right? Taiki Maeda sucks, right? It's like those people, and it's like the second batch people, right? They tell themselves, hey, airdrops are diluted, right? I am correct to ignore them and be lazy. And if you think about the psychographic of the second batch people, like they were never going to airdrop farm, right? They don't even know what staking is, right? Like they just trade coins on a centralized exchange. Like they don't know what a Kepler wallet is, and they just complain about airdrop farmers and get engagement, right? That's kind of like the second group of people. Look, okay, this is kind of condescending, and I'm kind of generalizing here. And okay, like actually, when I post this full piece, I'll probably have to reword this. And then Schrodinger's airdrop farming, right? This says there are far more people that complain about airdrop farmers than there are airdrop farmers. As a result, people psyop themselves into thinking airdrops are diluted and choose not to farm, which ends up not diluting the same airdrops they complain about, right? So, people love to complain about stuff, right? And people that are also in the same camp as those complainers, they're going to retweet and like that type of posts. And there's a lot of them, right? So naturally, like more likes, more retweets means that more eyeballs, that tweet reaches more eyeballs. And as a result, people will get psyops and say that, oh yeah, like, Celestia, it's too late, right? Like I'm not going to bother with it. But if everyone does that, then the future airdrops are not going to be diluted, right? And then, following another big airdrop, right, we have more people staking TIA, and it's like, oh, like now it's diluted, right? Now it's diluted, right? It's not worth staking TIA anymore because now it's for sure diluted. And another big one happens. It's like, oh my god, like what am I doing here? And then it's like the number of TX stakes go up, and it's like, okay, like now it's diluted. Now it's like this virtuous cycle. And at some point, airdrops will be diluted, right? That's a mathematical fact. But the thing is, we don't really know when airdrops are going to be diluted until we have a bunch of airdrops happen that end up being like super diluted, right? Like, does that make sense? So Schrodinger's airdrop farming is like, part one is, okay, like people like just complain about things and then it psyops people. And then the second part says that there's no way to know whether an airdrop is being diluted or like not diluted. There's no way to know. But like, how do you know if an airdrop is diluted, right? Like, if we stake $100 worth of TIA or like whatever and receive $500, like, was it diluted? I mean, yeah, it could be, because if it weren't for the dilution, it could have been a $1,000 airdrop. And you don't really know when airdrops are diluted until we're like at the later stages of a bull market. So as a result, I think the most game theory optimal approach, like the GTO approach, is just that as long as these airdrops continue happening and they're big, like the GTO approach is to just stake, because a lot of people, they're trapped in this mid-curve mentality of just telling themselves airdrops are diluted, and I am correct to ignore them and be lazy. I mean, that's basically what people are doing, right? They want to not do it. They want to not buy other people's bags. They want to be lazy, and then they reach the conclusion, like a form of confirmation bias, where they tell themselves airdrops are diluted. So, this is incomplete, and maybe people can berate me in the comment section of whatever, right? But I think it's kind of like an interesting thought experiment. And like I mentioned, like, as long as airdrops continue to be big, then it's not diluted, right? That's a fact. And airdrops can still be diluted and make a bunch of money, right? So like, when is it optimal to sell? Like, when is the best time to not enter? We don't know, right? There's no way to know. And the only thing we can go off of is the most recent airdrops. So as long as these airdrops are working, then there's no reason to sell, right? And there's more reasons to like just buy in. And it kind of creates like this game theory, interesting game theory situation where like, is it too late? Is it not too late? And I come from like a poker background, because before crypto I was playing poker full time, and it's kind of interesting to think about. And like this game theory element's kind of interesting, especially because I also see people with like psychological biases. But anyways, this video is going to get way too long. I mean, it's already way too long. So let me try to go through these things, these pretty fast. So Solana airdrops, I think, so Schrodinger's airdrop farming, right? People are like, oh, like people made so much money on Jito, it's not worth farming. But I think it's worth farming, because the majority of the people that say that are going to be ETH maxis, that are just sad holding their cucked ETH tokens. And I'm one of them, right? I hold a bunch of ETH, and it is pretty cucked right now. So I think one airdrop, I talked about this last week, is Drift. I deposited some money into these vaults, and hopefully I get some of these points. I'm clicking the points tab. Okay, let's see here. First points drop February 2nd. Cool, right? And I think you're gonna get more points if you trade on the platform. But I'm a bad trader, or I don't want to even like attempt trading on chain, to be honest. So I'm just gonna enter a capital into these vaults, and these vaults are managed by the Drift team essentially, because the Drift team, they're professional market makers. It's not perfect, but that's one. Jupiter, I think Jupiter airdrop's gonna be pretty big. It's gonna happen on the 31st. I don't think I'm eligible because I'm a mid curve, right? I'm a mid curve. It's just angry at myself for missing all these airdrops. But hopefully my redemption arc is like TS staking. But I'm farming Drift, I'm farming Jupiter, or I will farm Jupiter. If they introduce like escrow Jupiter into this, then I will like farm the hell out of this thing. I know there's other farms that people talk about, and it's impossible for me to cover everything. But I do want. So this is my gift to you, right? So in the Discord, we have this channel called Community Strategies, where people can submit their own, airdrop farming strategies or like farming strategies. And this guy here was kind enough to talk about his delta neutral strategy. So farming for potential Solana airdrops, Drift, Margin-Fi, Jupiter, Camino, while maintaining as little exposure to Solana price action as possible. So I'll provide this video in the description below. I think this does a better job of explaining Solana airdrop farming, just because I haven't done it, right? So I'm not really an expert when it comes to this. So I'll share this video in the description, and you can kind of get like a taste of, I guess, like the Discord and whatnot. Cool. So last thing I want to talk about is, damn, markets are green. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about, the last thing I want to talk about is SUI and Aptos, because man, SUI is insane. It's absolutely insane. Honestly, I thought that this was like a scam chain when it first launched, because like the whole VC thing. But I mean, for an asset to go down from like $1.30 to like 40 cents and like go back up to all-time high, I mean, this is objectively bullish. So how can I ignore this, right? I have my biases because it's like, hey, like I don't like the VCs, right? Fuck the VCs. But I can't like look at this and be like you can't ignore stuff like this, right? Because for example, like I think Say is one example. Right, Say like dumped a lot and then pumped to all-time highs essentially, and then it like just turbocharged, right? So like maybe something similar is happening with SUI. And it's interesting because if you go to the SUI TVL, let me refresh this. It might be more actually. Okay, it kind of decreased a little. Interesting. Oh wait, no. Okay, there you go. Look at this. This is up only, right? This is literally up only. And I'll show a few farms. So by the way, I haven't deposited capital into any of these things, right? So I have no idea how safe these things are. All I know is that the SUI Foundation gave these teams tokens. So, I'm assuming that they've done their due diligence. So it's going to be Navi, Scallop, and Aftermath. So let's talk about Navi first, because I guess it has the highest TVL. So it's a money market. And I think they also have their own liquid staking thing called VSUI. And then, if you deposit SUI, you can earn 18% because of all these incentives, right? Boosted APR. And all these incentives are coming from the foundation. So these are SUI tokens. USDC, you can bridge there, earn 18%. Bridge USDT, earn 15%. Pretty good, hey? Pretty good. So that's one. And, you can technically like do the strategies of like, let's say USDC as collateral, borrow USDT, and then deposit it here, right? You can do things like that. I mean, the borrow APY is like pretty high right now. So yeah, it's something to be aware of, right? Pretty good stablecoin farms. Scallop lend here. These websites, man, well, if Scallop lend does not load, then sorry devs, right? I can't show your platform, like your website sucks. Come on. Oh, there it is. Okay, there you go. It doesn't really suck. Okay, cool. It's not loading though. Oh, there it is. Okay, so SUI, right? I mean, same thing, right? I mean, they just have a bunch of SUI tokens and they're just giving it out. Might as well. And they have a bridge. These are wormhole USDC, right? People think that wormhole is going to drop a token, right? Airdrop might not. Who knows? Maybe you can bridge here via wormhole and then get double whammy, right? Farm SUI, get airdrops. Cool. There's also Aftermath. There's they have SUI emissions for like these pools, SUI USDC. I think AF SUI is like a liquid staking, right? So it's like single, like SUI Buck. I think Buck is like the overcollateralized stablecoin. And there's like stablecoin LP paying like this much. I mean, like good stuff. Definitely interesting. And then, I'd be disrespecting Aptos if I didn't talk about it, right? Because both SUI and Aptos are move-based chains. And I guess the narrative around move-based chains is that EVM and Solidity, there's a bunch of exploits, right? Bridge hacks, protocols being exploited because Solidity is like not that secure, etc. I might be butchering the explanation there, but I think the value prop of Move is that it's supposed to be more secure. So like I have no idea how secure it is, right? I mean, like what the hell do I know, right? I'm wearing a farmer hat and I'm holding a rake. But I mean that's kind of the idea. Aptos TVL. Let me refresh here. Also up only. I mean, maybe most of the TVL are like just the VCs that like invested in them, right? And they're like just pumping the metrics for the hell of it. But hey, like can't disrespect it. I'll talk about a few, Ala and Aries. I think Aries, okay, yeah, like Aries, like this website doesn't load for me. for some reason, I got it to load one time, and it's similar to like, Scallop, right? Where it's like there's this incentivizing borrow lend with Aptos tokens. So sorry I can't show it to you. Come on devs, come on devs. I'm trying to give you exposure here. It's just like not working. I think Dala is also somewhat interesting. This is like some DeFi hub on Aptos. They have an over collateralized stablecoin called Mod, I believe. I'm not really sure why they call it Mod. I think there's like some funky things where you have to like vote escrow this thing to like get like a boosted yield. I mean, honestly, like I don't really know what the hell's going on here. But hey, like actually this part of the video is probably not that useful, right? I'm literally like a SUI and Aptos noob talking about things that he doesn't really understand. But hey, at least you're aware that TVL is going up. Like, look at that. It's, oh shit. Okay. What the fuck? Okay. Oh my God. Oh, what? Come on, DeFi Llama. There you go. Look at that. Boom, up only. SUI up only. A bunch of protocols, they're giving away incentives. If you want to be early, like, do you want to be trapped in the EVM, right? Do you want to be trapped in the EVM, or do you want to potentially be early into these VC infested chains? Like sometimes you just have to capitulate and be like, you know what? Maybe the VCs knew something, right? Like maybe the VCs, like maybe they knew something, and you just have to capitulate. Lastly, Pendle, gotta respect Pendle. Let me refresh this because I think it's a little outdated. I think, oh, whoa, look at that, 500 million. I think Pendle is probably like the best way to play Eigenlayer, just because there's all these restaked LSDs, but they're all commodities, right? Like anyone can like create them. But if people restake their Ether and they want to earn additional yield, I think the only place they can do that is, or one of the few places they can do that is like Pendle. They can trade yield. So on Arbitrum, right, they have pretty good yield because they have Arbitrum incentives. Then you go on mainnet, and I think they have a bunch of like, restaked ETH pool paying 26%. And if you think you have an edge trading in yield, you can trade in and out. I mid-curved Pendle because I think last year, like Q3 last year, I was like trading yield on Pendle just to try it out, and the fees were too high, and like it didn't really make sense. I didn't really see it scaling, but I guess like what the mid-curve part of me missed is that, well, if they continue to grow TVL, then they can accommodate like larger size trading, and they can like lower fees eventually, right? If they wanted to like just focus on that, and it seems like it's going to be the winner when it comes to like trading yield and whatnot. And I guess like bringing like the yield curve on chain, I suppose. Definitely interesting stuff. This video is 40 minutes long. I'm sorry. It's so long. I'm not going to edit it though, because yeah. Where's my alt at? Let's see. This is crazy. Like what? What is this? Like sometimes you get airdrop tokens and you have no idea what it does, and then you look into it and it's like, oh, it kind of sounds legit, but I still don't know what it does. Who knows, right? Like maybe, like, okay, here's my plan, right? My plan, right? This is always my plan, is like just hold this thing in the eigenlayer, right? Like whenever mainnet launches, because, ETH is very cucked, right? I mean, ETH is very cucked. And ETH maxis understand that they are losing the narrative. So if they're losing the narrative, then what are they going to do, right? They're going to shill the hell out of eigenlayer. That's like, that's like one of the few catalysts they have. And if that's going to be the case, right, and you have all the ETH influencers like that invest in the eigenlayer, like, in the seed rounds and whatnot, then, they're going to just make it like, they're going to do all the podcasts. They're going to like, treat it as like the best thing since sliced bread. And then hopefully, people buy this thing into it, and then I can just realize those profits into USDC or something. Because like I mentioned, if you're airdrop farming, you have to sell at some point, right? I'll be honest, right? Like you just have to sell at some point. Otherwise, because you're staking TIA, which is very liquid. And you can't sell your TIA, right? If you're like doing this. So if you don't sell your airdrops, then you're never realizing anything. So, just be humble, right? Be humble. Who knows? Maybe this is a top for alt layer. But I think, alt layer has a pretty similar relationship with dimension. And if I'm dimension, right, then, or if I'm bullish dimension, then I feel like I kind of have to be bullish alt layer. And I guess, alt can be like my hedge against DYM not doing well. And maybe this thing goes to 0, who knows? But anyways, that's gonna be it for me, 40-minute video. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. See you guys later. Make sure to check out the premium Discord. Prices go up February 1st. If you sign up before then, you get to keep the lower rate. So bye-bye.